Hey there, it's me Lauren with BoldNotionQuilting.com, and I want to show you about my stunning straight edge ruler that just recently re-released. I have added tons of different markings. You can see we have 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 and 75 degree angles. You've got 1/4 inch markings all the way down the ruler, okay? So what that does is it starts at 1/2, goes to 3/4, then 1/4, so that you know that your ruler is 1/4 inch away from the edge of the ruler. So if you line this first line on your stitching point, it's going to give you a 1/2 inch line fat that you stitched. It also has 1 inch horizontal markings all the way across to help you with your quilting, as well as 1/4 inch markings and 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch markings. So it's a really versatile ruler and it's very easy to use. So let's just go ahead and stitch a few straight lines. So I stitch from 1 to the 5 inch mark, and I'll want to stitch 5 inches again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my 1 inch mark with my horizontal line that I stitched, and then make sure it stays nice and straight. Okay, and then I'm going to stitch up until I get to the 6 inch mark, because that'll be 5 inches. From 1 to 6 is 5 inches. So I have my needle stop right where my ruler says 6 inches. If I measure that, that's still 5 inches, so that's great. We'll do the same thing again. We'll utilize that 1 inch horizontal line so it's nice and straight in line with my previous stitch. That'll keep the ruler, the square, nice and square. 1 to 6 and down, and then theoretically this should also be 6 inches. Okay, so I've got a square in there, and I want to show you how to really utilize the shapes on this ruler. So let's say I have a block and I want to stitch some 30 degree lines in there. So I got my 30 degree line lined up with my straight line. I'm going to stitch one. Going to travel a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is utilize, I wonder if I turn these lights off, if you can see better. I'm going to utilize this first line to give me a 1/2 inch line. I'm going to line it up on the red line that I stitched. And then I'm going to stitch alongside it, and that's going to give me a 1/2 inch mark. So that's a 1/2 inch in between. If we measure it with our ruler, it's 1/2 inch. Okay. We're going to do one more of those. So there's some 30 degree lines. Now, let's say we want to do some 75 degree lines. So you've got 75 degree markings on both sides of the ruler, so you can utilize it from any angle. And it's a pretty wide, obtuse angle. So I'm going to line it up with my square that I did not stitch a straight line across. Okay. That's 75, right? So we can use these to create some really fun shapes. I like it especially for like some modern quilting when you want the angles of your lines to differentiate, but it's really hard to decide like what angles to actually stitch and to make sure that they're like the right degree. This takes that out for you. Makes it wicked easy so you can quilt some crazy cool shapes. Alright, and then let's go ahead and stitch a 60 degree line off of this 75 degree. Okay, so I'm lining up my 60 degree with my last stitch 75. We're going to put that in here. Just backtrack a bit and then we can follow those lines. And like, you don't even have to think really or try too hard to get some really nice contrasting angles to get some variations in your straight lines in there. I'm just gonna fill that in for fun. Okay, and then of course if we want, there's a 45-degree angle that we can use, and I'm just lining it up on this previously stitched line. Normally I would use the ruler to travel, but I'm not feeling it today. The only thing I don't like about the handy grip is how much it can grab poofy batting. Drives me nuts. Sweet. So you can get a feel for, let's turn that light back on, how those different lines can come in handy and make some pretty cool stuff. And this is just a little bit of improv. So those lines can help you in any shape that you're stitching. Let's say you had some sashing and you just wanted to do 30-degree angles in that sashing, you could. You could do 75, 60, or 45 degrees depending on what's going to work best for your design. But it can be a lot of fun to just kind of mix and match the different angles of your lines. So that's how you use the degree angles. You line them up with a seam or a previously stitched line to get that angle. And I often will stitch my first one at that angle and then utilize these lines right in here, the etch lines, for whether I want to get a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch thick fat repeating line. Okay? The other cool thing that I really like about these horizontal markings, which I showed you just briefly a little bit ago, was that if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to stitch an arrow and I only want it 3 inches, right? Well, if I had some kind of set, like quilt block marking out my arrow, it would be a lot easier to stay within the lines, but bear with me here. So I'm going to start at one of my inch markings. I'm going to stitch for 3 inches. So 5 inches to 2 inches is 3 inches, and I know that I can stop there. Okay? And then you can utilize these markings to also give you arrow points that go skinny to fat. And I'll line it up with right here on my 3/4 inch line. The second one is right above the tip of my arrow. It's just touching it. And then the other part is touching my hopping foot. Stitch to the middle or thereabouts. And back down. We'll do that again. And that's how you could use the horizontal markings and the vertical markings to really help you out. And then of course you also have 1/4 inch markings. So if for this arrow I wanted to measure, okay, I'm going to do 1/4 of an inch, a 1/2 of an inch, a 1/4 of an inch, I don't have to actually go grab a marking ruler. I instead already have all of these lines that are 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 of an inch that I can just use this ruler right here at my machine and mark. You can use this for a sit down or a stand-up machine. I have them in the handle version and in the handle-less version, right? So if you're a sit-down quilter and you prefer to not have handles, maybe you're a stand-up quilter and you prefer to not have handles, there's also the flat version as well. And this comes in 1/8 of an inch thick for low shank machines as well. trying to make sure that I think of everyone when we're doing these rulers, because I feel like there's a big gap in what's available and versatile for people. So there's a lot that can be done with the stunning straight edge rulers. I particularly love all the different degree markings and the versatility with not only being able to mark on your quilt top without grabbing something else, but also being able to kind of measure where you're going and being able to stop at various times without having to say, okay, did I stitch an inch? Because you literally can stitch from the 5. You just line it up with your needle to the 4 and stop, and you'll get better the more you do it, and then you can just kind of gauge, okay, is this an inch from where my needle was to where my needle ended? And it is. So it's really cool, versatile tool. It's called the Stunning Straight Edge Ruler. It's on my website, boldnotionquilting.com, and you can see it in the product section. And again, there's 3 different types to choose from, as well as some bundles with some curved rulers that you can get as well. Take care and happy quilting!